Hello, welcome to Tales from the Bridge. My name is Tristan.
I'm James.
My name is Sam.
And I'm Kevin.
And in this episode, we're going to be talking about Neuromancer by William Gibson, one of my favorite books. I'm very excited to hear what you guys thought of this one. So looking forward to chatting about that.
We also have some science fiction, science fact, some really timely stuff involving alien invasions.
Ooh.
After that, we're going to find out what else we've been watching, reading, otherwise consuming.
So be sure to like and subscribe and reach out to us on our socials with your recommendations.
And of course, at the end of the episode, we're going to find out what we're reading next. And it is Sam's pick. And I bet it's a good one.
And well, how about we make our way over to the bridge?
So a lot of us have been very excited, well, those of us who are overly nerdy, about this astronomical anomaly that has been flying through our solar system for the last couple months. Sam and I have been chatting about it. The world has been chatting about it. It's this object called 3I Atlas. And it is an interstellar object that has been flying through space at our solar system. And that unto itself is really unique. We've only ever seen that 3 times before. This is the third interstellar object that we've ever seen. And so it's kind of cool. People have been talking about it. But what's gotten everybody jittery about it is there's some strange things about it. It's anomalous. First of all, it's huge. The thing is like 1,000,000 times bigger than the other objects that we've seen come from outside of our solar system. It's coming in really fast. And it just very oddly is coming in at the planet ecliptic, like almost at the same level as Earth and the other planets. And it's making fairly close flybys to Jupiter and Mars and Venus and Earth. And it's timed just perfectly so that as it goes around perihelion on the far side of the sun, Earth can't see it, which would be the perfect place if you were an alien spacecraft to try to do some type of a orbital maneuver, like slow down, speed up. Anyway, so people have been crying out saying, this is an automated, probably artificial probe from another planet. And we actually don't have any evidence to that apart from these interesting anomalies. And there's actually a bunch of other anomalies. Have you guys heard about this thing? 3I Atlas, this potential comet, potential aliens, yeah?
Definitely aliens, no question.
For sure.
Yeah. I like the I hope it is, or maybe I hope it isn't. I don't know. Maybe it parks itself over a country and then emits a giant laser beam. Then no, I'll totally regret saying that. But
when it actually happens, you're going to sound like a real prick, Sam.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's pretty exciting, even if it's just a rock.
We don't want to hear plausible explanations. That's not what we're looking for.
You're
here.
right. You're
Heck
right.
No.
Yeah, and the UFOs have been having a moment lately, right? It's like, officially acknowledged by the U.S. government now. The U.S. Navy tapes of those like orbs in the Pacific Ocean. I don't know. Well,
there's some other things here. Like it is if. We can see it, and we can see what type of metals it appears to be made of, or at least we know that there is nickel in it, and there's very little iron, which apparently mirrors industrially processed nickel alloys, which looks artificial, only because of the composition of nickel versus iron. Apparently, it has very little water, which is unlike other comets that we've seen. As it was reaching the sun, it started brightening up in a certain color. I believe it was turning blue, and typically they turn red. And then, really interestingly, it did non-gravitational acceleration as it went around the sun. So the thing it was not acting purely around gravitational mechanics. Something was accelerating it. And the reasonable folks out there might say that it was off gassing and it might have been shooting back and forth because of melting ice, etc. But the thing was accelerating, and it's still actually doing weird accelerations, which is kind of strange. So yeah, I mean, yes, there are reasonable explanations for a lot of these things, but this gentleman, Avi Loeb from Harvard, He's put out a couple papers about this, and he's actually written a paper about the dark forest hypothesis. If anybody knows the three body problem, the sci-fi story, another book in that series is called The Dark Forest, and it's all about how their societies, intelligent societies, are smart enough to know to try to hide themselves, so that they're not killed off by other societies that are like stalking around and destroying intelligent species. And so he says maybe this is a silent probe. Maybe this is how alien intelligences send out their probes, is they mask them inside some type of natural phenomenon. And in fact, what it's doing is it's going on reconnaissance and finding information about us humans, because it's about to zip back out of our solar system. It's going to go into interstellar space and we will never see it again because it has that exit velocity. So maybe we're doomed.
Well, yeah, or like maybe they're just trying to see if we're a threat. Maybe if we're
Mm.
friendly, it's okay to come for a visit, you know?
I mean, just imagine the energy required to send that at fast speeds into interstellar space, and what are the chances that it would come in at the ecliptic in our solar system just perfectly to orbit around the sun and then to exit again? Like
So with it exiting, how much more can we learn from it?
it's on December 19th, it will make its closest approach to Earth, 269 million kilometers away. At that point, we should observe a massive gas cloud around it that would have like burned off of it as it went around the sun. If we don't see that massive gas cloud, then it was doing its own acceleration around perihelion, and that would be a bit of a smoking gun that apparently this thing is probably artificial. So it is on or around December 19th that we'll get our best review of it.
Either way, which I guess we'll see, or maybe we won't. I'm having one of those moments of like listening to you talk about this and describe this, Kevin, of like kind of what hits me in an airplane sometimes. Of like, it's kind of you're kind of blasé and you're having your airline food, and then you're like, wait a minute, I'm like thousands of feet up in the sky, but listening about this. I just want to give a shout out to science and scientists who can, the fact that we can study these things and know their composition and detect their speed and their size and know where they came from, we're really standing on the shoulders of the giants, I guess back to the days of the, ancient physicists and astronomers. And yeah, I just want to take a moment for them and thank those people who have the brains and the wisdom to be able to put this together, because it really, if we all took a little moment and looked at this kind of stuff with less of the National Enquirer eye and more of the like, holy shit, this is amazing kind of eye, that we can even see this and know about it, is pretty cool.
It's phenomenal. I 100% agree with you, and have reasonable explanations for a lot of these anomalies that we see, and to be able to identify that, wow, this is really interesting that there's this much nickel and that much less iron, and for that to be noteworthy to some geologist or astrogeologist, it is amazing. It's totally phenomenal.
So a question for you guys. How do you think Earth reacts? Like it comes by and it like is very clearly a spaceship. I don't know, let's say it even gives us a little wave of some sort and carries on out. Uh, how do you think we respond? Like does humanity react to this poorly? Does well? Does peace break out? Like you know what I mean? Like what do you guys think? Or does it get lost in the news cycle and we stop talking about it?
I would say peace, no chance. That's just not something that we can do on this planet and I don't think for a very long time. But I think you'll still get nowadays with everything, and that's the conspiracies. So you're just going to have people, even if the scientists that James just praised, that we all put our trust in, not our faith, but our trust, and that's the difference here. I think you'll still get people that will say that they're lying to us. It won't be chaos. I don't think the economy does anything, or well, actually, I shouldn't say that. The economy could do some crazy stuff, but I think it'll be anything but we're not alone. Let's relax and enjoy our time. I think it'll just bring about more weirdness because things just keep getting weirder and weirder on the planet in the last 20, 30 years. It's just getting wild.
We nuke the damn thing.
I think there's a disturbing percentage that would be in favor of that, Kevin.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I think your instincts are not wrong there in terms of how many people would be up for that, and fully agree with you too, Tristan. I think there would be as many reactions as there are stars in the sky. Based on birthplace, socioeconomic status, age, uh, generation. I don't think there would be any one or even two or three or four set reasonable reaction, even if it was staring us in the face. I think it would take us a long time to come to any sort of consensus about what was actually happening.
Agreed. And
Yeah.
you know what? In keeping with the conspiracy theory discussions related to this, the fact that it does seem suspicious right off the get-go, the fact that as of the time of recording, there's a government shutdown in the United States and NASA is effectively quiet on this issue, not providing leadership or guidance, feeds into that. So if and when it does become aliens, it's going to come from a place of already existing conspiracies and apprehension and suspicion. The big orange man with his finger over the launch buttons might very well fire some things at it if they can. I mean, who knows? The thing is it's anywhere between 5 and 12 kilometers in diameter, so I don't know what that would do if you were to nuke the thing.
Aside from all of that, and just on sort of a silly note, my greatest wish for this thing would actually be if we could send, a crewed mission and have astronauts land on this thing and have somebody stumble across some rocks and rub off a piece and find the word V'ger. That would be a full circle meta moment for me like no other.
You're gonna have to explain that one to me, James.
Star Trek, the motion picture, we're going to have a sit down viewing party of that one.
I guess so.
Okay, well, we're going to have to wait and see about our interstellar visitor. Hopefully, not that long. But for now, while we're waiting, what else have you guys been reading and watching?
Well, I've got one audiobook that I listened to that is, I mean, some might link the what we've been talking about with Three Eye Atlas to the Anunnaki. And it's called the Anunnaki Connection. And I think I just like I love the conspiracy stuff sometimes, and I find like that's science fiction to me. Even though the book was approached as there's a lot of truth, and we should be looking further into what's going on with ancient Sumeria and the 10th planet that they've spoken about. I think it's a Nibiru and the Anunnaki, who apparently were aliens who came to Earth thousands of years ago and basically helped us become where we are today or who we are today. So that was a fun read, conspiracy filled, but fun. But of course, it also gives you a lot to think about, like how one of the chapters was about just how people are always destroying history and all kinds of little stories that are truthful. That's like, well, why are people trying to destroy museums and history and to erase the past? So, of course, when you have that, it kind of not. I'm not saying that I fall for this stuff, and no, nor do I believe that Three Eye Atlas is aliens at all. I still have fun with it. I still think it's fun. So that was a fun little audiobook, actually. I didn't read it, but I will just mention one more that is also a free audiobook only on Audible by Robert Sawyer, and that's the Downloaded. I think maybe this was mentioned by someone before, but the second one just came out. I'm going to start that one probably next week because they're such simple, easy to listen to books. Narrated by a few different actors, including Brandon Fraser, which was really neat because apparently he won the Academy Award for Best Actor a couple years ago for The Whale and was slated to do this Robert Sawyer, guy from Mississauga audiobook. And they were like, oh, no, he's not going to do it now. He just won an Oscar. And apparently was like, no, I still want to do your book. So he did that. And it's just it's a fun story, not too long. I do recommend that, the Downloaded.
That's great. I'm gonna have to listen to that one. It sounds good. I've been listening to some more books. I've actually been listening to some John Scalzi because maybe a year ago, I started listening to the book The Collapsing Empire, which is a space opera from John Scalzi, very similar to his other books, very irreverent type narrative, lots of swearing and supposed to be kind of funny And it is a good storyline there. It's about a planetary system, series of systems that are connected by some type of wormhole type faster than light travel, and that network is collapsing. So what happens to an interstellar society that can no longer connect to different planets? So I read that and I thought it was okay, and then. But it didn't draw me back into it. So recently, I read the second book called The Consuming Fire, and it was pretty good. I think I'm going to read the third book, which is called The Last Emprox. Uh, and then and then I think I'll have my fill of John Scalzi for a little while. And Will Wheaton is narrating them, as he likes to do, as they like to put Will Wheaton onto the John Scalzi audiobooks.
Well, true to form, I haven't read anything else other than our book of the month, but I did, in order to celebrate Halloween, which we just went through last week, and spooky season, we just got through. I was looking for something because I love this time of year and I wanted something that would sort of fit in with that as well, too. So I went back into the archives and I picked a movie that I watched by myself because my kids would not join me. A movie that I had never seen before. I always wanted to see it and had heard so much about it, but I picked up Event Horizon because on the
Nice.
surface, it looks great. Like Lawrence Fishburne, check. Sam Neill, check. Scary space movie, check. But then I'd also heard lots of bad things. I'd heard that it wasn't so good and it didn't quite deliver. And so, and it was a old school DVD, not on streaming that I got this. And, it's funny. I don't know. Well, Tristan, it sounds like you have seen it, but it really was 1997 was when it came out. And it felt to me like a great idea in search of a great script. It really felt to me like, oh, well, okay, this is a cool idea, and they had all the tropes of like an interstellar or a faster than light scientist poking a hole through a folded piece of paper to show how the wormhole works, kind of thing. But maybe it was a time thing, a budget thing, because it did feel like a B movie with A-list actors, yeah, a little bit, and it was enjoyable. Did it fully deliver? And could I imagine a bang up remake? Absolutely.
I remember watching that in theaters. I went to go see it by myself because I really wanted to see it. And I walked into that movie, watched it, and I remember it being very scary. Like at the time, it was very scary. And I came out sick as a dog. I just had some flu, but 2 hours, I was fine. And at the end of those 2 hours, I was sick as a dog. So every time I think about Event Horizon, I think about becoming ill. So I don't think that's a reflection on the actual movie itself, but that happened in real world.
You went to hell and back.
That's right.
Yeah.
I finished Matter by Ian M. Banks and the book of the month. So that was sort of my reading. It took me a while to get through Matter, but I did enjoy it. I think I'm warming up. I feel like it's I'm not going to use a jazz uh, metaphor here. I'm going to just say you're going to like I just you have to tune your ear to certain music or certain style of music. I think I'm slowly tuning my reading taste to certain types of books, and I think I might be warming up to Ian M. Banks, which goes against 3 years of me on this podcast railing against Ian M. Banks. But I don't know. I'm not committing, but I'm Banks curious now.
Thanks, curious. That's great.
and and then the other thing I was watching on my own without the Foundation, 3 seasons, and it is now in my top three sci-fi shows of all time.
Wow. Okay.
Sitting right neck and neck with The Expanse. I highly, highly recommend you take the time for it. Fantastic, just fantastic. And I'm hoping they've left it where there should be more to come. So I'm hoping there's another season at least. And yeah, it's just wildly good.
Do you have to get through all 3 seasons to really appreciate it, or can you appreciate it after season one?
I actually knowing I dropped it after like the second episode, right? In the first season of like 3 years ago, 4 years ago now. And I just got enticed by what I saw in season three promos. So this is just a marketing success on their part, for me, and and so I saw that they had gone somewhere kind of compelling, and so I went back and rewatched the first and second episode and went, "Oh, okay, no, there was something here," and just kept up with it. And I would say, like The Expanse, you've got, or like any book series, you've when you know you're going to go to two or three seasons, or you got two or three books to go, you get to spend some time setting the stage, right? And so the first series certainly sets the stage, but there's enough there. There's enough meat on the bone to keep you occupied.
I read the books. I enjoyed the books. I haven't heard. I've heard some glowing reviews of the TV show, but now I gotta watch it.
Yeah, it's so good. Like without any effort, do I recommend it?
All right, the book of the month was Neuromancer by William Gibson. I'm really interested to hear what you guys think because we sometimes we meet up and we talk about the book before, and we have not done this. So I'm pretty sure Kevin's read this before years ago, and James, I think you did say that you read this back in college a long time ago. But I love this book. I find it very exciting and the writing extremely dense. So I can see how some people might find this a bit tricky to move through because the narrative is so dense. But I also think that speaks to the talent of Gibson to be able to write such amazing prose. The story is extremely original at the time. This was 1984. To read this book for the first time, and I mean, this book you can read now and go, this is high tech stuff. Like, wow, you can still imagine it now. So in 1984, when this came out, this would have been kind of mind blowing, I think, for a lot of science fiction writers. So I imagine science fiction writers in 1984 getting this book and just being blown away themselves and saying, I've just been taken to the next level of what a writer can do now.
I think you're right because it won all three of the major literary science fiction awards, right? It won the
Yeah.
Hugo, it won the Nebula, and the Philip K. Dick Award that year.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
believe it's the only book to have done that.
Oh, really?
That's what I understand. Yeah.
One thing, I'm not going to go too much into the plot. We can start to get into that a little bit more. But I do just want to talk about the book and its reception overall. And one very interesting part about this book is William Gibson has no computer background at all. So that to me adds to the writing. That gives that for me, that allows me to, or that lets me say, Gibson, you're phenomenal that you've done this because a lot of computer folks read this book and they're blown away. So if he's fooling them, there's something huge to be said there alone. There are samurais in this story. There is a computer interface that your consciousness goes into called the Matrix.
Sounds familiar.
It sounds familiar. There is an orbiting space station with seemingly Rastafarian characters who are on a place called Zion. So I'm not suggesting too much here, but
Sounds familiar too.
yeah. So there's obviously many differences, but it's kind of amazing. I'm not sure for you guys, for Sam yourself, probably being familiar with The Matrix and then reading this book, or for any listeners out there who have watched The Matrix and then read this book, is it not pretty neat to read this book and go, okay, so all of this stuff is we've seen this before. It's really interesting to see film take this book because no one's turned this book into a film or TV show yet. And I guess since I've said that now, they are filming Neuromancer. It is a TV show coming soon. I'm really excited for that because I think this has got to be the best cyberpunk story to be told. It is the coolest. It's badass. It is. It's so thick. It's one of those books I've read twice. I look forward to reading it a third time in a couple of years. I have read the short story, which is okay. Burning Chrome, which came out before Neuromancer. It's good. It's fine. And then I've gone on and read Count Zero, which is the second book in the Sprawl series. It was fantastic. Even I don't want to say better than Neuromancer because Neuromancer broke down all the barriers, but Count Zero was excellent. I haven't read Mona Lisa Overdrive, the third and final in the Sprawl series, but I will. very soon, actually, probably before the end of the year. A
Both
lot
of
to
which
be.
were also Hugo Award winners. I must
That's
point out they're both Hugo Award
yeah,
winners. Yep.
yeah. So that's good to hear that, Kevin, because I can see some people reading this book and saying too clunky, too wordy. Like there's just it's so dense I can't get through it. But it's recognized as being phenomenal writing and very consistently as well. So I also look forward to reading more Gibson that I haven't read because I haven't gone too deep into all of his work. So we'll do that. Guys, what did you think of Neuromancer?
So I read this. I remember Tristan when you mentioned it's like Sam, you're going to hit this book, right? um, and I hadn't read this before, and I only knew that it had served as the inspiration for The Matrix, and I feel like this author should have been paid royalties, frankly, for from The Matrix for it. But anyways, I kind of went into this thinking that I'd be reviewing a relic from science fiction past, like something that would predict an outdated version of a near future Earth and something that would not have aged well. Like the old Conan O'Brien bit comes to mind here, where they would look ahead to the year 2000. But this wasn't the case. I mean, at least not entirely. I think the future envisioned in Neuromancer is improbable, but I think this book still aged pretty well in spite of that. I think the world building is both uncanny and yet recognizable, which is what a vision of the near future should be. I liked the patois and slang peppered into the dialogue, a la Blade Runner or Clockwork Orange. Although I will say that the slang sometimes brings a certain choppiness to the flow of the story. And there are times I think that this works against the reader and feels a bit lazy on the part of the writer. But overall, totally recommend it. I think if you're into like cyberpunk and the future of augmentation and the internet, that this is a critical starting point. So I will, Tristan, give this 7.5 out of 10 implants for me.
Hey, that's not bad for a Sam review. Very, very good.
7.5 is high. That's excellent, I would say.
Yeah. No, I mean, no one gets a 9, so that's or a 10. So that's a standout for me. No, I really like this. I thought it was great, and I felt a little sheepish coming so late to it. It is genuinely clever, and there are things that I had not seen before. I mean, we've been like doing this for a little while now, and I feel like I've read some weird stuff in terms of sci-fi, and I saw new things that I'm surprised I haven't seen copied somewhere else, or maybe they have, and I just haven't read that book yet. But yeah, outstanding. No wonder it's so heavily beloved.
Yeah, I thought I had read it back in the day too, but once I got into it, I realized I hadn't, and I think it was actually a friend of mine was obsessed with it at the time and talked it up to me, but I didn't pick it up until now. Like everyone and like the reviews say, the language is tricky. He doesn't spoon feed this story to you, but at the same time, there is a level of genius, I think, to the writing and the world building and the descriptiveness of it. Starting with the title, I mean, the portmanteau of the title of Neuromancer is so evocative and so like it just sort of gets under your skin all right away, and it tells you almost everything you need to know to hook you. I was doing a little more reading online and research just to make sure that I wasn't completely off base and feeling like a dum-dum, that some of this felt a bit difficult to me. And I came across a Substack called Made by Humans for Humans, and a writer named James Barham, but he also read Neuromancer for the first time in 2025, and he talks about the writing style, and he said it was a very positive review, but he said, when I finally sat down to read Neuromancer, I found that Gibson's prose felt almost identical to the placeholder Lorem Gibson text that I had used. That's a little aside reference, so dense with jargon and terminology that my mind kept slipping off the sentences. And that's exactly how I felt too. Because I had originally started listening to the audiobook of this, but then I would have to go back and be like, wait a minute, what was that? I'm lost. And I did feel lost in the story quite a bit until I picked up a hard copy of the book. And then it sunk in a little better. How ironic, right? That the old-fashioned paper copy was what jacked into my brain with more efficiency. The story-wise, yeah, it's kind of a noir thriller, like a noir detective thriller. It's got the language and the tone and the gritty, badass characters. The characters are kind of two-dimensional, really. They're not really well fleshed out or well explored, but that's okay. We don't need them to be, because the rest of the world is. Gibson created this world and described it. I think his powers of description are so effective. And, that first line is so famous. The sky above the port was the color of television, tuned to a dead channel, which is, the most famous example from his work. But there was another one that struck me, quite a few that struck me through the book, but I just want to read another one it's sort of mundane, but I loved it. And it was when they were in the station in orbit, coming up to the climax, and it read, there was a brass plate mounted on the door at eye level, so old that the lettering that had once been engraved there had been reduced to a spidery, unreadable code, the name of some long dead function or functionary polished into oblivion. And again, it's just so evocative and so descriptive, and you can see it almost. I could anyway. And yeah, the world full of corruption and it does. I don't know if I don't think it's implausible. I think the sort of corporate and military takeover of things, and it felt a little bit like the current path that we have been on for the last number of years isn't all that disbelievable. But yeah, it's also full of these weird anachronisms too. Like as you mentioned, there's ninjas and shurikens and these symbolic things from the past placed beside, neural plugins where you can literally explore the inner worlds of a computer program or a computer network or a supercomputer AI, which is, again, timely. Also, too, there must have been something, in the water or on TV or something, because remember, too, there's a lot of talk in comparing this to Blade Runner, which was 1982, so a couple of years prior. Tron was also 1982, so literally physically going inside a computer. Not that there's any real similarity, but other than that sort of technical aspect. But I think as well, the influence that this has had on media and creativity is goes without saying. It's incredible to the point, it made me think as well. Going back to the early 90s, I was a huge U2 fan. They had just released Achtung Baby and Zooropa, and I saw their Zoo TV tour. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was a long time ago now. Ooh. But the Zoo TV and Zooropa tours were all about this. They were clear lifts from the sprawl and that sort of dystopian tech future that was way past what we actually had in real life. And I loved it. If you can catch that concert on DVD or streaming, it's well worth it even now, just for that glimpse. But which then leads me into is a nice segue. Doing my research for this as well, I ran across this film, a documentary about Gibson that was done in 2000, which again is frightening how long ago that was, called No Maps for These Territories. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but it is just a simple documentary. William Gibson getting driven around in the back of a limo, smoking and talking about his books and religion and technology and culture. And Bono and the Edge show up. Bono reads a bunch of passages from Neuromancer and other books, and it's very influenced by, I think, Zoo TV, and then before that, Neuromancer. So
Where can
yeah,
you watch
we
this?
owe.
Where
Oh,
can we watch
I just Googled it, and you can catch it on Plex. So it's like a free
Plex?
online streaming service. You got to tolerate some ads now and then, but yeah, Plex. No Maps for These Territories, it was called. Again, super low budget, but if you're into Gibson and want to hear him talk about his work, it was a good watch. I enjoyed it. And I think, yeah, I think from an entertainment point of view and sort of futurist look at the world and what is and what could be, we owe William Gibson a debt.
Agreed. Absolutely. Well said, everyone. I would only add a couple of things. The cultural influence, as you say, Jamie, is surprising. Like in this book, he coined the term cyberspace, which of course has famously been used through culture, through books, through media. And you know, you mentioned Blade Runner and Tron, etc. Johnny Mnemonic, which was a short story that also took place in the Sprawl or Chiba City, I believe, that dystopian kind of cyberpunk style world, he wrote in 1981. And so that came before this. And of course, Molly, who was one of the major characters in this book, was also a character in the Johnny Mnemonic story, which became a major motion picture in 1995 with Keanu Reeves. So he's had some, you know, influence in culture, and he started back in 1981 with this type of thinking. So I almost wonder if that influenced Blade Runner.
It also makes you wonder if it was just a matter of time. Like, when did fluorescent lights start to show up in all the major cities? You know, picture Madison Square Gardens or picture Tokyo.
Mhm.
You know, it just seemed like in the 80s, Tokyo was about to design all our video games.
Yep.
It just, I think the stars were aligned.
Yep, I agree. Absolutely. And to the idea that he was a visionary around computing, you know, certainly not around the technology of it, but around the vision, the idea around of AI. The concepts that he's thinking about with AI here is very advanced. The Turing police, for example, making sure that AIs are not able to join or evolve themselves because of understanding the potential for the problems with superintelligence. I mean, that was not commonly discussed in mid 80s. And even just knowing about Alan Turing and naming the Turing police as being the you know, that body that controls AIs. The idea of Neuromancer and Wintermute splitting and joining, and it was a really interesting exploration of what AI could be and the fact that it was able to drive humans from the background maliciously and selfishly, and that they're godlike creatures living in the Matrix. It is it was a great read to read again. I did read this when I was younger. I read it after I read Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson, which has some overlap. Snow Crash is much more accessible. It's much easier to read. It's much more rompy. And I remember reading this book and thinking to myself, "What the heck did I just read? I couldn't follow it. I couldn't understand it." And now I was able to understand it a little bit better. And this time through, my gosh, yeah, I definitely appreciated the subtle nuances and the influences on culture, and all the connections to the movie The Matrix, which of course last time I read this hadn't even existed. So anyway, thank you for getting us to read it. It was nice to revisit it.
Glad you guys appreciated it. And we didn't go into any of the plot. I don't think there's any need to. Just go read the book yourself if you haven't. I hope that what we talked about here gets you excited to read this book. And I don't recommend listening to it. It's just, if you can handle listening to it, it might be an acquired thing. And I also feel like that with Ian M. Banks. There are certain books of his I can't listen to and have to read, and then there are some that just easily you can listen to.
All right. I guess it's my pick of the month, isn't it?
Uh-oh.
Getting into the alien speculation fun caused by Three Eye Atlas, I thought it might be timely to consider what an alien would think of us as a species. So to that end, we're going to read The Humans by Matt Haig. So The Humans follows an extraterrestrial visitor posing as a math professor at Cambridge University. He is absolutely disgusted by the way humans look, what they eat, their wars, famine, and everything that we might define as human. It's more of a thought experiment that uses science fiction as the vehicle, and I'm here for it. This ability to cross into other disciplines is where sci-fi can really shine, and so with all that in mind, I thought it would be an apt pick of the month. This is not a new book. This is It's going back 10 years or so. So we are, there's plenty of reviews in on this. So I'm sorry not to pick something current, but it felt apt for the moment.
Looks good. Yeah, excellent ratings on Goodreads. Lots of people have read it. That sounds like an interesting one. And you're right, it is very apt with our inevitable visit from aliens on 3i Atlas.
Yeah, right. Maybe they have similar feelings about us as well, and we get to see a giant particle beam evaporate us in short order.
Thank you for joining us today. Have you read Neuromancer? Let us know what you think. Let us know if you plan on reading it. And are you going to watch the show? Because I think that's pretty exciting as well. Join us in 2 weeks. More episodes to come. Until next time.